Hey there, writer friends. Have you ever felt like you're not making the most of your writing time, or perhaps you're not as productive of a writer as you could be? Yes, I know that feeling too well. And so if you have ever felt like that, then this video is going to be a game changer for you, because in today's video, we're discussing the brain science behind creativity, motivation, and habit formation, and how that will help you become a productive writer. When it comes to creativity, neuroscientists have discovered different regions of your brain that are involved in allowing you to be creative. And there's a lot of research and study ongoing in this area. But one thing that they definitely agree on is the fact that in order to be creative, a person has to mix and remix mental representations to create new ideas. What does that mean? That means that you have to be a collector of ideas. That's basically what that means, because creativity really comes from what we have in us, right? And so your lived experiences, the books you've read, the movies you've watched, the music you listen to, maybe even just that random ad you saw on YouTube as you were watching this video, or a billboard that you saw on your way to town, right? We are constant collectors of mental representations of things. And for you as a writer, right, these represent ideas. And so the more you collect ideas and you collect mental representations around you, you're able to take from that well, and I love to call this a creative well. You're able to pull from that creative well and be creative, because one of the reasons why sometimes, perfectionism or procrastination or unrealistic expectations end up preventing us from writing is because we're facing a creative block. We're like, okay, when I sit down, what am I going to pull from to write? But when you are super intentional about collecting ideas all throughout your life, intentionally and unintentionally, but for us as writers and creators, we have to intentionally do this, right? You actually fill up that creative well, so that when you sit down, you don't have as much resistance, because you can pull out of that creative well. As an example, recently I wrote a book and published it, and it was about a park ranger. The main character is a park ranger, and this idea came from an actual park ranger I had seen at this natural preserve that's close to us. My family and I love to go take walks there. It's beautiful, it's gorgeous, it's so peaceful. And so seeing that park ranger, seeing the beautiful environs of that nature preserve, I was able to use that as a mental representation, right? As an idea that is in my mind that allowed me to create this brand new story, right? Now, the tropes in that book, it's a romance novel, so the tropes are the same. People have encountered that before, but people haven't encountered my characters before, because I created these new characters from all the ideas I collect around me. And so as a writer, you have to be absolutely intentional about collecting ideas around you, whether that's for fiction or non-fiction. And I write both. And so in both cases, all of these experiences, all of these ideas I collect end up filling up that creative world that allow me to pull from that to create something new. Now, perhaps you've gone through that phase where you're like, I don't feel motivated to write. And personally, let me know in the comments below. But personally, when I hear the word motivation, I begin to think about motivational speakers. And motivational speakers tend to get a bad rap, and people criticize them that they're not real, they're not doing real work. But, I've also heard people who say, I went to this motivational speakers event, and because of that, I quit smoking, or because of that, I wrote my book, or because of that, it helped me bust through some limitations. So definitely, external motivation works. But external motivation works only so far. The more powerful form of motivation comes from the inside. And this is where it gets really cool when it comes to brain science. There is a chemical in your brain known as dopamine. It's a neurotransmitter. That means it takes messages from one brain cell to the other brain cell. And this lovely neurotransmitter is actually behind the science of motivation. Now, I'm not going to go into every single detail of how dopamine works, but dopamine, you can think of dopamine as that chemical in your brain that gets excited when you do something fun or rewarding. I read somewhere that it's like a high five for your brain. You do something fun and rewarding and it's like high five. Dopamine is like high five, right? And then dopamine in your brain plays this role of forming these messages within your brain that say, listen, we did this before and we were so excited, let's try it again. And this becomes a very, very powerful thing when you start to think about things like addiction, right? But in this video, we're talking about writing, right? So for me, right, the way that I'm able to draw on that dopaminergic feeling of, high five, good job, Gertrude, is whenever I hold my book in my hand. Whenever I take my book, I take a finished book, when it's done and I hold it in my hand, that feeling it elicits, oh my goodness, it's amazing. And then let's also talk about the fact that when I publish the book and then people start buying the book and then I get the money, that's a really great motivation. And people also start leaving me reviews. That is, or at least let's talk about great reviews, because yes, occasionally I get the 1 or 2 star review. Those are not as fun, but yes, those great 4 and 5 star reviews definitely give me a lot of motivation to continue to write. When I write on LinkedIn and people respond and people tell me that this thing helped them to change careers, I'm so excited, right? And so there are definitely going to be markers and the results of our work that we can look at and be excited about. And as a writer, I think that these are really great sources for us to pull from to build up that internal motivation that keeps dopamine running like an engine that continues to motivate us to write. Now, according to scientific literature, you can wear out dopamine, right? So sometimes you can wear it out. And so maybe you're excited about holding your book, excited about getting that money, excited about the reviews that you get. And maybe there comes a season in your life where you're like, I don't feel as excited about writing anymore. It doesn't necessarily mean you should quit writing. It could just be that you're in that moment of dopaminergic wear out, right? Dopamine is worn out. This is where I think it's smart to take a break, right? It's smart to say, you know what? I've written this many books. For now, I'm just going to enjoy my family time. Maybe for now, I'm going to spend it doing something else. And really, I face this too. So I finished a book in August and there's another book idea I have, but I'm not as motivated to get started writing it yet. So I decided I wouldn't exhaust myself. I don't want to do something I don't necessarily want to do. I still want to write. I'm still excited about writing. But in this time, I just don't feel as motivated. Now, am I just abandoning writing during this time? No, I still write every single day. Various types of writing. I also think about my characters a lot. I think about the characters that I'm going to put in this book. I already have kind of a backstory for one of them, and the other one I'm really thinking about their backstory a little bit more and their internal motivation, right? Speaking about internal motivations. And eventually I'm going to write that book, right? But I'm giving myself space to respect the wear out, respect that wear out of dopamine that I have right now when it comes to writing my books. Eventually, I am going to look back at my shelf and see those finished books and see the reviews and see the money and be like, girl, you better get back on there. And that's going to be wonderful. But yes, you can motivate yourself internally, and dopamine is responsible for that. So sometimes you may want to look at some of the rewards that you get from the work that you do and use that as motivation to keep going. Being a productive writer really comes down to building that consistent writing habit. Now, a habit, by definition, is a routine or a ritual that has become almost automatic. And so for a lot of us, right, we started brushing our teeth when we were younger, and now it's almost an automatic behavior. You wake up, you go brush your teeth, and you don't even think about it. And I know this happens to me because sometimes I'll be like, wait a minute, did I brush my teeth? And then I have to think about it, like, oh yes, I did. And that's because it's become so automatic. Sometimes you may not even necessarily feel yourself doing it. Now, the reason this happens is because of something known as neuroplasticity. Now, neuroplasticity is the ability of your brain to learn or change all throughout your life. And this is amazing because if you don't have a habit right now, it's something you can actually build. Now, the way that habits become almost automatic, like brushing your teeth, for instance, is because when you repeat an activity, let's say you repeat an activity every single day, eventually the neurons in your brain, or the brain cells, begin to work together to form these neural paths. Now, you can really think of these neural paths the same way you would think of a path on a grassy field. Let's say you have a grassy field, there's no path on it, right? And then one day somebody decides, I'm going to start walking in the middle of the field. And they keep doing that. As they keep doing that and other people begin to do that, right? Eventually we're going to find a footpath on this grassy field. Now, that footpath is going to be there as long as people are walking on that path. If there gets to be a time where nobody ever walks on that path anymore, the grass is going to regrow, and then there's not going to be a path there over time. There's not going to be a path there anymore. So that's what happens when you begin to not do certain things, when you begin to fall out of habit, right? And the neuroscience or the research around habit formation, some people say it takes 21 days to form a habit. It just so happens though that the actual time to form a habit varies for everybody, because your brain does need the time to form those neural paths. So how do you begin to form these neural paths that allow you to become a productive writer, a habitual writer? The first thing you want to do is set the goal, set the intention. What do you want to do? Maybe you want to write 1,000 words every single day. Maybe you want to write 500 words every single day. Then make that your goal, right? Maybe you use some habit trackers on your computer. Maybe use some tool on your phone. But make that, set that intention, and then have something that keeps you accountable. And then the second part of this is for you to build a routine around this intention. All right. So maybe your routine will be that, okay, I'm going to set my alarm for 6 o'clock every single morning. I'm going to wake up, brush my teeth, do my, what I do in the morning. Maybe you pray a little bit or whatever. And then once that's done, I'm going to write for 30 minutes. And that is the routine you build around the intention of writing 500 words every single day. And for me, I have something similar when I am writing my books. I'll say, okay, I'm going to write 1,000 words every single day towards this book. And sometimes I'll sit down for that 1 hour and I'll write 1,000 words. And sometimes I'll sit down for that hour and I'll write 700 words or 500 words. But wherever I get to within that time, I at least have set an intention. I've built a routine around it, and I actually practice the habit. As you continuously do that, those neural pathways begin to form, and it becomes something that becomes almost automatic, that you do without even thinking so much about. And that's how you can use brain science to really trick yourself into becoming a productive writer. Now, this is really a video that was different from all the other videos I make. I really enjoyed making it. If you enjoy this video, let me know in the comments below. What did you learn? What stood out to you? Let me know in the comments below.